The Algerian boxer was born female, was registered female, lived her life as a female, boxed as a female, has a female passport. This is not a transgender case. I know you're not saying that, but there has been some confusion that somehow it's a man fighting a woman. This is just not the case.
I know some of you may be watching the Olympics of 2024 in Paris. People have seemed to tune into the female boxing competition, primarily because it is accused that one of the contestants is a transgender. But before we continue, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you like and let me hear your opinions in the comment section below. Imane Khelif. This is somebody that has sparked a whole lot of waves when it comes to how she defeated her opponent. And people have come across this, and the internet seemed to follow a trend that this is indeed a trans woman.
Nigeria's Imane Khelif and Italy's Angela Carini traded blows in the ring at the Paris Olympics, leaving Carini convinced her Olympic debut was over. In a shocking move, the Italian boxer suddenly stopped fighting, walked away from her Algerian opponent and forfeited the match. A highly unusual occurrence in Olympic boxing. Carini did not shake Khelif's hand after the match. She sank to her knees and cried. An emotional Carini told the press that she had never been punched so hard in her life. Last year, the Algerian boxer Imane Khelif was disqualified hours before her gold medal match at the Women's World Championships in Delhi. International Boxing Association, or IBA, disqualified Khelif for elevated testosterone last year. But the International Olympic Committee, or IOC, allowed Imane Khelif and Taiwan's Lin Yu-ting to compete in the 2024 Paris Olympics, despite failing the gender eligibility test for the World Boxing Championship.
Now, this doesn't just come from nowhere. The female boxer that she opposed said that she hasn't been hit so hard in her life. Now, this may not necessarily mean that she's a transgender. Now, the reason I wasn't so quick to talk about this, especially when the news came out or the allegations came out, is because I couldn't really find a concrete evidence that would suppose me to say that Imane Khelif is a trans woman. The things that I have seen was that she failed 2 gender tests, and these gender tests were held by the Boxing Federation. The gender tests were so illegitimate or not important that they were rendered dismissed. They were dismissed. So, if the Boxing Federation could dismiss a gender test that she failed to meet, it is something to be looked into, and I can see why people would automatically assume that she is transgender. Now, people assuming that she is transgender because of the power that her opponent felt is really nothing to take, because in the male boxing space, how many times have we seen a male boxer demolish his opponent because the power in his fist is just too much for the opponent to handle? Example, Mike Tyson. Another example, Deontay Wilder. So we can't really use power as an example, because Imane has lost. She has lost. I think she has a record of 9-5.
This has now stirred up a gender debate. The World Championships were organized by the International Boxing Association, which the IOC does not recognize due to corruption and financial irregularities. The boxing match has reignited a debate over gender issues in sports. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni consoled the boxer in a photo posted on Meloni's Instagram. According to Prime Minister Meloni, the fight was not on equal footing, and athletes who have male genetic characteristics should not be admitted to women's competitions. A Twitter user in support of the Italian boxer slammed the IOC, saying, "Shame on Olympics." J.K. Rowling, author of Harry Potter, also voiced her opinion and said, "Explain why you're okay with a man beating a woman in public for your entertainment. This isn't sport." However, contrary to the social media opinions, Imane was born as a female. She once told UNICEF how her biggest challenge in life was to fight patriarchy in her country, where women are allegedly not welcome in sports. Moreover, she was born in Algeria, where the laws don't allow transition legally and are quite anti-LGBT. International Boxing Association, which disqualified Khelif, has been banned from the Olympics since 2019 due to disputes with the IOC. The IOC has supported its decision for allowing both boxers to compete in Olympics and said, everyone competing in the women's category is complying with competition eligibility rules. They are women in their passports and stated there that they are female.
And if it is a case where she is indeed a trans woman, she will most likely be wiping the floor with the contestants. These are 2 different people from 2 different countries, so we cannot use power as an ultimate decision maker when it comes to things like this. what other point arises that gives people to conclude that she is indeed a transgender? Well, an important point is that she has XY chromosomes. And due to this chromosomes being as they are, she seems to have a very, very elevated level of testosterone compared to the average female. The funny thing about this is that, one, she comes from Algeria, and Algeria is a pretty conservative country, but am I to assume that the country is so conservative that it cannot make some exceptions because they want to win? It's possible, but I would not go that far. Now, I would also say that the whole Last Supper introduction ceremony for the Olympics have also not been a good thing for the Olympics because it doesn't help what she's going through right now. But we also have to understand something. Now, nothing is final and nothing has been finalized yet. It does seem that Khalif does have female parts, and which raises a question as to whether she may be more of an intersex. She may be the slim population of women and men out there that are indeed intersex. In the case of Imane, she's predominantly a woman. She possesses the female parts of a woman, but when it comes to her chromosomes that dictate her hormones is an XY, which is associated with being a male.
On that, there is consensus. Scientifically, this is not a man fighting a woman, and I think we need to kind of get that. I think the question you have to ask yourself is, are these athletes women? The answer is yes, according to eligibility, according to their passports, according to their history. A test which may have happened overnight was a made-up test, which is new. I don't think we should credence at all. If we start acting on every issue, every allegation that comes up, then we start having the kind of witch hunts that we're having now. But I think if you start working on all suspicions, then we're in trouble. But I think more importantly, this woman has competed for a very, very long time in women's sport against many opponents. In fact, against Italian boxers twice in the last couple of years, I think. So I think if you start working on all suspicions, then we end up very much heading towards a gender testing regime, which is not good for anybody.
So maybe why there's this whole backlash when it comes to her competing in the boxing Olympics. And also because when it comes to boxing, is a sport where people can really get hurt or people can really get killed. But what do I take from this? I think that the Boxing Federation did a poor job in not testing or not being clear about the status of each of the athletes that will be competing in the Olympics. I think more research needs to be done. I think more tests on athletes needs to be done on a weekly basis, especially when it is a world stage like this, and especially because each athlete is representing their country. If there is something that is important and needs to be known by the people that will be competing, it is important that everybody knows. Now, it doesn't need to be known by the public, but at least by the Boxing Federation and the team, it does need to be known to avoid things like this. It is a lack of integrity and due diligence for a Boxing Federation to be lackluster in conducting tests, especially when people can be cooked up on all types of drugs. All because you want to win as a country doesn't mean that you should bypass some things that would have been done if the stakes were not the same. Now, is it fair that she's getting this level of backlash? Especially when the results have not been fully proven? No, it's not fair. And this has to go with all the YouTube channels and all the content creators that will just use anything to make a topic simply because it hits a particular nerve in their brain. There is not enough people in the intersex and transgender category to create a whole other league, because not all people that are in that community even want to be athletes. Most of them are living regular lives. So this is something that needs to be talked about. This is something that needs to be discussed, and research needs to be made and conducted on this type of variables that can and will come up from time to time. But apart from all of that, we should not try to jump to conclusion, especially when we don't have a hard-hitting evidence on what we're saying. And as for now, to my knowledge, she's still allowed to compete because all the allegations of her being a trans woman has not really been proven.